Welcome to another video from Beckley Rose Property Solution. It feels like it's been a while since we've uploaded a video. I think that's due to the fact that we've been very, very busy. We've now been able to acquire, was it 4 properties now that we're on?
Number 4.
Property number 4. So you're here with myself, Olu, and Nathan. And we thought we would do a video just in regards to our second property, some of the challenges we faced during lockdown as we acquired this property just before COVID-19, 2020, which is going to be a year that we're going to remember. It's going to go down in history. So we thought it would be good just to share a video on our challenges, how we were able to overcome those challenges and get a property fully letted during COVID.
Yeah, as Olu's mentioned, it was a very interesting time with property number 2. So we was very much on a high securing property number 2 shortly after getting number 1 fully tenanted. Got the contract signed, and little did we know that 3 weeks after signing contracts, that the country was going to be going on a UK-wide lockdown. Yes. So lucky us, guaranteeing rent with during the middle of a pandemic. So it was obviously a very serious time for the country as a whole, but definitely not the ideal time to secure another deal. But we had to overcome it. Contract signed. There wasn't anything else. We didn't have a choice, so we had to.
It's funny you say that, because I remember when the lockdown came in and everyone was talking about holiday periods for landlords. Part of me did want to pick up the phone and call our landlord and say, "Hey, this COVID thing that's happening right now, can you be a little bit flexible?" But we decided, you know what, during these tough times, this is what we get paid for, right? This is where we earn our money. For sure. And it's just time for us to just get dirty and just get what needs to be done, right? So why don't we start with what was sort of the first thing we ended up doing? So did we have any viewings prior to the lockdown? How did that go?
So we had about a week before lockdown. We had our first set of viewings. We had 3 tenants arrive, and we managed to secure 1 of those tenants, which was fantastic. Obviously, still at that time, we didn't know that a lockdown was about to happen. So we was calm. It was our first set of viewings. Secured the tenant, so everything was looking positive. So that tenant actually moved in shortly after that. We got the references all sorted. They moved in, I think 2 days before Boris's announcement. Then we had our next sort of set of viewings, which was a couple of days after that. And in that viewing, we managed to secure both tenants. Yeah, so we were very fortunate because both of them knew each other. So they were kind of local sort of contractors. They knew each other really well, and they wanted 2 of the rooms. So we were very fortunate. Again, we didn't really know what was going to be happening or over the coming weeks. Now, we did manage to secure those tenants, and they signed their contract. Hadn't moved in, but they signed their contract literally on the day that Boris announced that we was about to go on a lockdown.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the situation. So it was a 4-bed property, forgot to mention. So at that point, we had 3 tenants secured, 1 moved in, and 2 who had contracts signed.
Yeah. And just to, I think, add to those points, right? With this particular property, it wasn't like our first property where we had the 1 month grace period. Yeah. So the moment we signed the contract, we were paying rent for that property. And some of the learnings and lessons that we had learned from the first property was the importance of advertising the property as soon as possible, which I think we did a great job to get people in the door viewing the property as soon as we got the keys. I think it was like a few days afterwards we had people viewing the property. Also, I think one thing we did really well was the way we were flexible with our price. Like given a discount of £20, right? It's nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? It's better to get £20 less profit a month than not have anyone in that room and it's completely empty. So I think the first room we put a very competitive price. I would say probably lower than the market. So we got quite a few people in to view the place, and we were able to get that tenanted straight away. And then the second one, we were able to offer them a deal to say, look, if both of you are willing to take this room, we can give you a £20 discount per room, which again is nothing in the grand scheme of being able to break even on the property, right?
Yeah, for sure. And just kind of touching on that point, Ola, I think that's where it's extremely important that you need to know your numbers, and understand kind of what is your sort of profit margin, because we knew what wiggle room we had. It was very easy for us to say, look, if both of you take this room, we'd be able to do X, Y, and Z. So understanding your numbers right from the off before you're securing those deals is really important. Really important. So that was kind of the situation we were at, really. So at that point, announcement from Boris that the UK is going into a lockdown. For those of you who are in the UK and have been following this whole lockdown over the last few months, you can understand how the communication has not been the best. A lot of mixed messages. So at that point, we didn't really know what we could or could not do. So it was a lot about networking with other investors, calling some of the associations that we're part of just to get a little bit more guidance, because we didn't know whether we could do any more viewings. We didn't even know whether we were allowed to move these tenants in who had just signed their contracts. And we were also getting questions from these tenants who had just signed contracts to say, look, we've signed, country's going into lockdown, are we still able to move in? What do you think is the best situation? So it was obviously it was very new for us. So we were also just learning on the spot and trying to understand, okay, how do we proceed from here, really?
For sure. And I think one of is just leverage your network, right? You're in this game. Like Nathan said, there's a lot of people that are property investors, property managers. Reach out to your network. There's so many information out there. Call your local council, right? I think a lot of times people shy away from just picking up that phone and calling their local council. And I think we landed on the side of housing is essential. Like ensuring that people have places to live is an essential part of living, right? So fortunately, we were able to move one of the tenants in. Do you want to talk about our blessing in disguise? The second tenant?
Very, very much a blessing. So obviously at this point, I said we had secured 3 tenants, which we had, which was great. Now, tenant number 3 had, because of their work situation, because of COVID, that they were able to work from home, they were no longer moving into the area. So at this point, myself and Olu are panicking because we're thinking, okay, he signed the contract. We can't get any more tenants in. We've already paid the landlord 1 month rent in advance. We're going to need to pay month number 2 shortly. Now this tenant's saying that they're not going to be moving in. So we're just thinking, so we're having conversations with each other in regards to what is he going to not pay us? What should we say to him? We're going to be even more short of money. So we just left it just to find out what would happen, what he would say. And literally, when I tell you an absolute blessing, so this tenant viewed the property, signed contracts, and paid us every single month for the next 3 months, and he never stepped foot in the property again in the middle of the pandemic where we had no other income coming through.
Yeah. And I think that's because I believe his workplace subsidized he's living when he, because both of these corporate tenants, right, would work in our Goldmine area for 5 days, so Monday to Friday, and they'll go home on the weekend. So because their living was being subsidized, they were able to afford to still pay us without it being a burden to themselves, right? So again, is the importance of finding the right sort of tenants. Fortunately, we can say that during a pandemic, we were able to pay all our landlords on time, and we were able to receive 100% of rent for from our tenants. So that tells you the quality of our searching and finding tenants, and it also shows the quality of our property management. So having that open conversations with all our other tenants to say, hey, this is the expectation. If you're not able to pay rent, let's have that conversation up front, and that allows us to manage anything if we need to. But fortunately, we didn't have to, right?
Yeah, no, very much so. So we was with what could have been a very precarious situation, and it was a precarious situation. Ultimately, we was in a fortunate position, I must say, because it could have been a lot worse, where we were breaking even ultimately. So to be able to have those 3 tenants in, and also thankfully that we was getting profit from property number 1. So that was also tying us over as well. So as a result of that, we wasn't losing any money during that period. You know, so we had the option to be able to put key workers into the property. So that was the one thing that they did say we could do during lockdown. So we could move essential key workers. We decided not to do that whilst there was a hospital nearby. Where we could have put NHS workers. We just didn't feel it was appropriate at the time for the current tenants living in there, just to kind of mix any kind of level of risk with the NHS workers. So we decided to keep that final room just open, vacant during the remaining lockdown period until the heavy restrictions were lifted, which wasn't until July, I believe it was, Olu. So we signed contracts March. So March, April, May, maybe it was June actually. I think we had 3 months worth.
June, of break even.
Yeah, 3 months of break even. So it was June where we managed to re-advertise the property and get the final tenant in.
And I think with the re-advertising, what this pandemic taught us, and I think we were easily placed or well placed in this position, is the importance of virtual viewings and ensuring that you have quality videos of your property. So obviously, because we're also trying to document our process and document our experience, to be able to share our lessons learned to our community, we typically, when we take over a property, we do video recordings of the before and after our renovations, which meant as we weren't able to do physical viewings, we were able to keep people still interested so that when they were going back to work or looking for places, we could say, here's a video of our property. And normally we do like a walkthrough tour of the kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms. And that way we could build a list so that when we were able to physically start doing viewings, we already had a list of people that were ready to go in and we were ready to go day one.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was definitely a really important part in terms of getting the room, the final room, occupied as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So I think that was kind of our journey with property number 2. So it was an interesting 3 months with a lot of lessons that we learned along the way. So I hope that has been useful for you. I think it's really important that we want to share this message that despite the pandemic, and we hope that everything is kind of settled now, but what we wanted to kind of just say is don't let this hold you back from getting started, because we have been able to fill a HMO during the absolute peak of the pandemic. It wasn't easy, but if you can put certain measures in, then you will be able to still do what you need to do. Yeah. So if anyone's got any comments, any questions, please feel free just to drop a message below. If anyone's got any other topics that they would like us to speak about, again, just drop us a comment. We want to just tailor this to you as best as we can. Hope you found this video useful, and we will speak to you again soon. Take care.
Take care.
Beckley Rose Property Solutions, the master key of property management.